Welcome to my exotic tropical style garden here in Zone 5B, Southern Ontario, Canada. I hope you are all doing well. For those of you new to my channel, I have been experimenting with growing exotic and tropical style plants in the ground for over 30 years. I started small with a handful of plants till now in 2024 I am pushing the limits. I would not have dreamt about planting my current list of plants when I first started, which includes over 30 additional species of exotics in my newly renovated garden bed. To be clear, none of these plants would survive in our Zone 5B climate without extreme winter protection. Currently, my foundation planting of 6 palm species, massive cordylines, cycads, and numerous flowering trees and shrubs are covered with cold frames or tall thin greenhouses. Each one is individually heated with their own minimum base requirements. During the warmer months, I add my container grown plants to accentuate and further create the illusion of a subtropical getaway without leaving home. The thoughts of needing to renovate and replace many of the key plants and trees began a couple of years back. The need to cover the plants for winter meant pruning them back hard. This affected how they would look for many years to come. By removing 30 massive leaves from the white bird of paradise one season was disheartening. It was like living with a bad haircut for years to come. My Livistona chinensis looked amazing once it reached the roof line of the house. To bring it down to size meant cutting out the spear, which would be certain death. Once the decision was made to lift these plants, either repot them or relocate them to the back garden, then I started to compile a list of exotic plants which would either grow slowly and or benefit from being pruned back. Above all, they must grow well together and have a wow factor. I was inspired by gardens from my travels to tropical locations. Inspiration is great, but the reality sets in. Could I source these plants in Canada in a timely manner and not break the bank? Then of course, did I expect all of these plants to survive year after year to create the effect I was looking for? Time will tell. Having searched local nurseries and plant suppliers for hundreds of kilometers in Ontario and Quebec, I got a lot of blank stares. They took my information and none called back after 1 year. So I went ahead with a watered down list of plants, much smaller than I had hoped for. I ended up with planting over 30 new species into the flower bed against the house. As a footnote, all of these plants must be able to survive in a subtropical or Mediterranean type climate where winter temperatures can drop to single digits Celsius or below 50 Fahrenheit for several days or weeks at a time. Watering during winter must be managed carefully. Most of these plants are either dormant or grow slowly at this time. Some do continue to flower on and off through the winter. As the days grow shorter, water every couple of weeks and then every 3 to 4 weeks during the shortest days. And when watering, water early on the sunniest days only. And then when the temperatures are forecast to be a few degrees milder to allow the plants to take it up. Do not saturate the soil or wet the foliage more than necessary, as fungal issues can become a major problem. Also, open the cold frames during warmer days to allow a good air exchange and dry out any condensation. At no point should any of these plants be exposed to temperatures at or near freezing, especially if wet. In colder zones 5 or 6, our nighttime temperatures rarely rebound during the day to well above freezing. Some winters we stay below freezing for 2 months straight. My winter protection boxes and cold frames need to be as airtight as possible to keep the heat in. I have planted over 30 new species in this newly renovated garden bed, but to save time and to keep the video shorter, I will only cover some of my favorites. Along with palm trees and bananas, the tropical hibiscus is a must for me in my exotic garden. This one is a vivid red color, producing flowers throughout the warm weather months and then sporadically during the winter. Now in the ground for its third winter, I keep it pruned back to 5 feet wide and 6 feet tall. They do benefit from ample water and feeding through the summer and then much less during the winter. Full sun location is best. Red passionflower vine. Planted behind the hibiscus is a red passionflower vine. It is a vigorous grower once established, producing flowers at every leaf node. By pruning it hard early in the season, it becomes bushier, encouraging more branching and this velvety foliage and more flowers. The flowers open only one day during the summer and 2 or 3 days during cooler times. In my garden, they scramble over the hibiscus tree and anchor themselves with tendrils to the bougainvillea, framing the front entrance and onto the roof. Another fast-growing tree is this angel's trumpet or brugmansia. Planted here over 10 years ago as an 18-inch stick, it likes plenty of water and a steady supply of manure or compost, rewarding us with clusters of intensely fragrant flowers during warm summer evenings. It grows well in full sun or light shade. Each year I cut it back 6 to 8 feet. After uncovering my exotic plants in the spring, they become a magnet for nesting birds who take advantage of the instant greenery for shelter and nest building. Here a family of American robins has again made a home in the brugmansia tree. I had to limit my work in this part of the garden so they could raise their chicks. This set me back about 3 weeks in my garden renovation. The tree philodendron is in the ground now for 3 summers. This plant produces bold, dark green foliage, which gets larger every year. My tree philodendron will tolerate cooler temps and light frost. I bought several more to keep as container plants. I liked it that much. This anthurium or flamingo flower grows as an understory plant in its tropical forests where it originates. So I tried to mimic that by placing it where it gets early morning sun and dapple shade the rest of the day. The red flowers are modified leaves called bracts, which keep their glossy, vivid color for many months. The actual flowers are on the center part, this yellow cone-shaped structure. They do benefit from growing in moist, organically rich soil. Alomandia cathartica enjoys warm, moist, full sun locations, producing exquisite yellow trumpet-shaped flowers and glossy light green leaves. A beautiful plant, but I doubt it will come through the winter unscathed. It is difficult to keep the temperature high enough during our long, cold, wintry nights. My aim is to keep it at 10 degrees or 50 Fahrenheit minimum. Beach spider lily, or Hymenocallis littoralis, grows from a bulb, producing long strap-shaped leaves and these delicate white tubular flowers with long stamens. They reproduce by offsets, forming sizable clumps. I also hand pollinate the flowers, which produces these fleshy jelly bean-sized seeds. It can take several years to reach flowering size. This amazing plant is Pachystachys lutea, the yellow shrimp plant. It produces these white flowers surrounded by yellow bracts, which last for several weeks. It does best during the warmest days of summer in moist soil and humid conditions. The giant crinum lily, or Crinum asiaticum, is a huge bulb, producing 4 to 6 foot amaryllis-like leaves and flower clusters on 3 to 5 foot stalks. The flowers are sweetly fragrant. I successfully hand-pollinated it with itself and then with Crinum powellii. The seeds currently are larger than golf balls. Larger than golf balls, but smaller than tennis balls. Next to the white crinum lily is the Queen Emma crinum lily with reddish leaves and flowers. It is equally impressive. They are currently just over 3 feet tall, or just over 1 meter. They do get much bigger with age, producing offsets regularly. The dwarf poinciana, or Caesalpinia pulcherrima, is a showstopper when in full bloom. It grows rapidly from seed. This is how they look 8 days after sowing. They are related to the most widely grown ornamental tropical flowering tree in the world, the royal poinciana, or Dilonyx regia. The royal poinciana can grow to 15 to 40 feet tall, or up to 12 meters. It has become invasive in many subtropical and tropical regions of the world. Brazilian plume, or Justicia carnea, is supposed to grow 2 to 3 feet tall, or 60 to 90 centimeters. It is hardy to zone 8B, freezing down to the ground, and then resprouting from the roots in the spring. My plants, after 10 plus years in the ground, are up to the roof line of the house, so they are about 10 feet or 3 meters tall, and it produces unique pink-red flowers. They are not fragrant. Next is the Mexican firebush, Amelia patens. It is a fast-growing flowering shrub, attracting hummingbirds and pollinators. This is how it looked the first week of July. It produces clusters of orange and red, short tubular flowers. By pinching it back every few weeks, it makes the plant much bushier. By the end of the season, it still reached 5 feet or 1.5 meters tall. It grows very easily from cuttings. I also have a dwarf variety growing in a container. The blue porterweed. Blue porterweed is another fast-growing shrub, producing a succession of small bluish flowers on long spikes. Although it is not fragrant, the flowers are edible, having a mild mushroom taste. They are also a great plant for pollinators and hummingbirds. At the far left side of my newly renovated exotic flower bed is a collection of the most tropical and tender plants. This area receives the most winter sun, in theory, if Mother Nature cooperates. Plumeria is among my favorite plants. This is my second attempt in the 30-plus year history of my experimenting with exotic tropical style gardening to grow plumeria in the ground. It is a sizable gamble to sacrifice a decades-old plumeria tree. This is how it looked 1 month after planting. I was pleasantly surprised at the growth rate of this plumeria when comparing it to being grown in a container. The width, height outpaced any other plumeria that I have been growing. The leaves are so much larger, more densely packed. The flowers also lasted much longer, including the blooming period duration. There were still flowers on the tree in mid-November of 2024. Philodendron Xanadu. I know recently the name has officially changed. They keep reclassifying and changing the names of plants. Plants that we have been growing for many years and know them by a certain name. Xanadu is an amazing foliage plant, whether container grown or in the ground. It tolerates full sun or part shade. Forming a large mound of these deeply lobed leaves, it adds a real tropical vibe in any garden. Monstera deliciosa, or the Swiss cheese plant. This plant has been in the garden over 10 years. It has performed very poorly up till now, being swallowed up and starved for light by its thicker, more aggressively growing neighbors. It has been relocated only by a couple of feet to give it a more prominent location with more sun, and I provided a trellis for it to climb. So far in 2024 it is looking much better, with larger, bolder, healthier looking leaves. Bougainvillea is another of my favorite must-have plants to set a tropical mood. This variety, Royal Purple, was one of the first plants I put into the ground over 30 years ago. It is extremely fast-growing and flowers reliably. This is how it looked at various stages following renovations. Pruned hard, it quickly puts out new side shoots. If you keep the leading shoots growing horizontally, it will encourage more branching. Once the new branches have put on some growth, prune them back by 1/3 to 1/2. Since bougainvillea flowers only on the tips of the new growth, the more branches, the more flowers. The colorful part is actually a bract. The flowers are the tiny white portion in the center. Here's a closer look. As a general note, when buying stock for your new exotic garden, buy more than one of each species, if your budget allows. My reasoning is, if you really like the plant and it does not survive the winter in the location you have chosen, it's nice to have a backup. Also, many of my plants fall victim to squirrels, who climb on the plants to gather the fruits they produce and snap the branches. Likewise, rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, etc. like chewing on the bark just above soil level, often killing the plant. I've lost several mango trees this way. Another must for any tropical style garden are banana plants. This one is the Cavendish dwarf variety, which produces edible fruit, one of the most widely grown varieties worldwide. It is extremely fast growing, producing one new leaf per week during peak season. Bananas, in order to flower and fruit, the plant must produce 44 leaves. The last of these leaves is called a flag leaf, from which a large bulbous inflorescence emerges. The blossoms are then exposed layer by layer from these reddish protective covers. As the fruit sets, it is called a hand of bananas. There are several varieties of bananas on the marketplace to choose from. Regarding pruning late in the season, I'm already seeing signs it is not a good idea, since this encourages new growth, and this new growth does not have time to harden off in preparation for colder, drier, and overall harsher conditions of the coming winter. Any cut edges invites disease and fungus to take hold, adding another hurdle to get over on what can already be a very difficult period. This garden bed is located against the house, which does benefit the plants immensely. Even though these flower beds are lined with styrofoam, which goes the full height of the garden wall and into the native soil to act as a thermal break, prolonged cold from the surrounding ground will affect the root zone of your heated enclosure. Averting cold and wet roots for many of these plants will be a very difficult process, short of putting heating cables into the ground. The overall cost of my electricity bill during winter months is already sizable. The coming La Nina winter is forecast to be longer and colder than average for my area of the Great Lakes. It is not good news for us exotic style gardeners. I hope this coming winter is kind to these plants. But in the spring I will do a full update to see what has survived, what has not, what has performed well, and what does need some help. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And give us a thumbs up. It really does help the channel. Until next time, happy gardening!